Philip about it, which we always talk about.
He's talked about the flowers for like months. That was his favorite part.
That was my idea.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll get to the bottom of that too. I didn't really. All right, guys, welcome to the Built by Vitality podcast. I am Steve Pinkerton, and I'm sitting next to
Philip Lewis.
And today we have two guests here from Southern Lightscapes. I've got Graham and JD, and we're going to talk a little bit about client experience. I've used Southern Lightscapes in the past few months and had an incredible experience. I came back and actually told Philip about it, which we always talk about.
He's talked about the flowers for like months. That was his favorite part.
That was my idea.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll get to the bottom of that too. I didn't really talk too much about the flowers. I just said I had an amazing experience.
He talked about the flowers.
And what we had talked about in the past was when people have a bad experience, they're going to go tell 10, 11, 12 people. Yeah. But you can counter that by having a really good experience.
And you don't really say nothing.
And you don't really say anything. Yeah. But it was so good that I did. So I said, man, let's get these guys on the podcast. Let's talk about it. I actually voted that it was Graham's wife that had the flower idea. So we're going to have to go through, and I really want to nail down on that. But I think anybody can learn from this, because anybody that's trying to sell a service or a product, how you service that client is everything. It's whether they're going to talk about it, whether they're ever going to come back again. I told Graham when I just saw him a second ago, I said, man, I am actually looking for something else to do so that I can use them again to do it, because I had such a great experience. So let's start with Graham. Why don't you give me just a background of how Southern Lightscapes got started, and then how you guys became partners and how that whole thing happened.
Yeah, sure. So about 10 years ago, I was in Northern Virginia working for a guy after college. I just needed a summer job, and I answered a Craigslist ad for a landscape lighting installer. I'd never done it, didn't know anything about it, but just needed to work for a little bit. And so I did that for about a year, kind of got into the sales process with him, got into design and just kind of general business, figuring out how to do this lighting thing. And then I moved to Charlotte. It's where my wife is from. So we moved back to Charlotte, or she moved back. I moved to Charlotte, and had always wanted to have some sort of business. Didn't really know what. And then all of a sudden I kind of realized that I knew how to do something. So I'm like, well, I'll just do that. So I think I, gave myself a $1,500 loan and bought a computer and a truck. Well, the truck came later, but and I just started driving around neighborhoods, just putting out these crappy little flyers that I had made. Did that for a long time, and then just kind of had some really good success. Grew. I grew every year, but not exponentially. I mean, I grew a little bit here and there. Hired some guys, hired some bad guys, hired a couple of good guys that were too good that didn't stick around, kind of a deal. But just kind of really honestly for the last 5 of the 10 years, just kind of hitting my head against a wall, just kind of reaching my personal limit. I mean, I was working, every day, all day, physically, whether I was doing an install, then I'd run to go do a sales call, then go back to an install, then, do service calls in the afternoon.
I don't see how you did it after seeing it.
Yeah.
It was something. And so really, I started, really kind of being somewhat I liked what I did. I liked dealing with customers. And that's honestly my favorite thing, is just getting to know my customers and just having a relationship with all of these different people. But I kind of had started looking around like, okay, this is, and I went just back and forth of this has either got to change or I got to get into something else. And then finally, it was kind of this past spring where I was like just wide open, as busy as I was, had just hired a guy that I thought was going to be kind of an answer to some of my problems. And that was a total bust. I was deflated. I was like, man. And at the time, JD and I had been, we'd started talking on the phone, just kind of throughout the day, kind of whatever, pretty casually. And I was just like, man, I'm done. Like, this is really wearing me out. I'm 36 years old, and I'm just over here digging this trench, And so anyway, I'll let him tell kind of his side of the story, but I was like, it would be awesome to do something together. Like, and I think at that point I was even kind of like anything. I mean, I was just telling you, I was like, let's just do something. Like, it doesn't have to be this. Let's do something else. Because I just really was, I had spent 10 pretty lonely years, doing a good job, but just doing it by myself. And so he was kind of in a similar situation of, wanting to have a little bit of a change in his life. And so that afternoon we got together
and you guys have been partners for about a year.
Not even. It's only been about 6 months.
7 months.
7 months.
So then, so he calls you and says, "Hey, this is wearing me out," and you decide that, hey, you know what? You own an Iron Tribe. You've been in the fitness world. What in the world made you say, you know what? I'm gonna branch off and I'm gonna jump on with Graham and see where this takes us.
Yeah, similar to Graham, I guess for a couple of years I've been kind of worn out with the franchise industry more than Iron Tribe itself. I love Iron Tribe, and it's got a special place in my heart. But it was straight out of college. I did a personal training franchise, then I did an automotive franchise, and then Iron Tribe franchise for the last 6 years. And I just kind of wanted to do something on my own. I wanted my own ideas, I just kind of wanted to grow personally in that way and in business. And so I'd been looking for a couple of years and had a couple of things not really work out. And then Graham and I started talking, and first we started talking about flipping houses.
Yes.
You remember that? Graham got his real estate license. We thought about that.
Okay.
And then I can't remember who brought it up, but we were on the phone one day. I remember we were sitting in my front yard, and I can't remember if he brought it up or I brought it up, but I move a lot quicker than Graham. So as soon as that happened, I was like, I'm in. Like, let's figure out the purchase price for 50% and let's go. And then in Graham's typical fashion, he'll go dark for a minute and he'll have to go and reflect and think, which would probably be good for me to learn. So that's when we kind of started talking about it. It was during quarantine, and it was the answer to one of my prayers. Is just open a door. And it was, and it's gone great.
I think of the entrepreneurial journey, and so many people look at it from the outside in and they don't understand how lonely it can be at times, because as an entrepreneur, you don't automatically inherit a staff of 15 or 20 people. It's you doing everything. It's you doing marketing, advertising, servicing, everything. And we can handle that for a while. And then at some point, it kind of takes the fun out of what we were originally passionate about.
Yeah, same. I wanted a partner.
Yeah,
I wanted something to build with somebody, and not just do it on my own.
For us here at Vitality at the old location, it was me and Jess for the first 2.5 years. Then we started. I was similar to Graham, where I knew I needed to get some people, but I didn't know who those people were going to be, and I didn't want any partners per se, and yet, and so we started hiring a couple coaches, and I was like, man, this is amazing. Then we hired Laura, who does all of our administrative. She's the GM, and then I was like, man, this is so much more fun when you're around people that you enjoy being around. And I think that's a really hard leap to get to that spot. And for the first 2.5 years, it was just me, and I was like, gosh, this isn't very fun. And now I look back, I don't know how in the world. Same way like JD can look back and say, I don't know how you did that by yourself for so long and hung on. You don't realize that when you're in it. You don't realize what you're doing until you can take yourself out of that and have someone to bounce ideas off of. And I think that the second part of this is partnerships get a bad rap. I think they get this. They get a black eye because there's so many bad ones. Well, they're bad because nobody puts a thought into not so much what is said in the partnership agreement. The agreement is necessary. I get it, but the tough conversations, were never had in the beginning. And once those are had, partnerships can be great. It can take those lonely times and give you outlet that you need someone else to bounce your ideas off of. So with you guys 7 months ago, how'd that transition work from you bring on JD, and then how did you divide the responsibilities? Was it just his piece was X and that's what he was good at, or did it take time to develop those?
Yeah, I mean, it took a while to just get him up to speed just on the business in general. And part of that was, I mean, I was so disorganized anyway, you know, it was like I didn't really know what was going on. You know, I just kind of was doing what I was doing. But we kind of decided early on that, you know, for kind of titling purposes, he's functionally like the CEO and I'm the COO. And so kind of all of the operations of installs and kind of the workings of it is kind of what I handle. He handles kind of, you know, what he's good at, which is kind of the bigger picture, looking at how are we going to grow this thing into what it's going to be. And he handles all of the marketing. We've got some help, you know, that we pay somebody, but that's his spearhead.
Yeah. So first thing, we had to get organized. Graham was just a one-man show, though, you know, and so
with a black notebook.
That
had to get thrown away, apparently.
And in the first week, I was like, "You put the damn notebook away, like right now." And he's like, "What the hell did you say to me?"
I did. I took a personal offense.
And because we needed systems, right? Yeah. And so I feel like we divided it up, cut and dry from the get-go of these are my responsibility, these are yours. You know, those have bled into each other as we've grown so quickly. But we definitely had, you know, scopes of work that each of us should focus on.
Now, will you explain, when we talk about exterior lighting, is that 100% of your Southern Lightscapes is residential exterior lighting, or how would you say that those revenue streams kind of blend into the portfolio that you guys have?
Yeah, no, it is entirely outside lighting.
Outside lighting.
Yeah, residential, light commercial. You know, kind of. I think
we're trying to get into light commercial. It's 100% residential now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we just got our
little
first
law offices,
commercial
houses, but
that are basically houses.
Yeah. And we've done some entranceways in some neighborhoods that are pretty significant. You know. But yeah, we're certainly not in a commercial pipeline where we're getting fed. It's all end user. So it's all people responding to Instagram, Facebook. We send out a really nice booklet, you know, mailer, finding us on Google. So really not even going through any other avenues. It's just people call or fill out a form online, submit it, you know, we show up, do a quote.
How much of your business is referral versus new customer that just happened to come across one of your social media posts?
Going into it, I mean, he was 100% referral.
Yeah.
And he was making a good living off that. So we still have that referral, you know, base coming in, but we've changed the marketing structure to where we're getting a lot of new customers as well. I don't know the percentage. It's probably, you know, 70-30 referral but we're really driving those marketing.
And I would imagine that's probably is that where you want to live, in that referral? I mean, it just makes it so much easier. You know, Tim Furr was a guy that said, "Hey, contact Graham. You know, he's the exterior lighting guy." And because Tim told me that, I said, "Cool, I'll call him." If I would have had to go and find, maybe I would have looked at 2 or 3 people. You know, but when someone tells me, "Hey, I had this great experience," you know, you should use these guys. I'm in. I'm 100% sold. I'm not going to go shop it around. That's just the way it's going to be. So I think, you know, obviously you have to add new clients, but I think that the referral base, you know, path is such a strong way to do it, especially with the way you guys operate. Now, sales, you're the one that's going to go out, Graham, and meet clients. Or is JD doing that as well?
Well, this week and the past couple of weeks, JD's been selling heavy. So no, he's a much more gifted natural salesman than I am. I've had to bring him up to speed on just like the design of things, just teach him, you know, just what I know about, you know, this is where this should go and that's where that should go. And I mean, it's not rocket science. I mean, it takes an artistic brain, which, you know, we both apparently have. So, he's picked that up quickly, and we honestly every morning we just look at the appointments that we have, the sales calls, and we just pretty much just divvy it up. And it's usually just by convenience. It's like, okay, these are down south, you take those and I'll go do this. And I've got a 2 o'clock, and so I can't do that. And so we just pretty much split it up. I feel like it's equitable, at least somewhat equitable.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much how that goes. We're just split it up.
What have you seen with your growth now that you've got JD involved and you've got this two-headed monster here? Have you seen a pretty good increase in the trajectory of sales and even with the pandemic going on now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this has been Southern Lightscapes' greatest year by far. I don't know if we've actually done the numbers, but it's about 5 times, right? In growth in the past 6 months.
Wow.
Of kind of, run rates. So it's been an explosive growth. I mean, a lot of that is, you get outside of the referral. The referrals are great because people just want to do business with people they like. Mm-hmm. And so you like Tim. Tim refers me. By connection, you like me before I show up, even though you don't know anything about me.
Yep.
And so it's been actually a really strange transition for me to go to like doing work for people that are outside of my community.
Yeah.
I like to, I ask him every time, like, well, who is it? Well, where'd they come?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know. I'm like, that's weird.
Yeah.
I should at least know one person that knows that person, but it's okay.
I think it's interesting too, when you look at client experience. JD and I were talking before we went live here. I was explaining my experience and how awesome it was. And it shouldn't be that big of a surprise. Like when I explained what it is you guys did, I mean, in reality, you did exactly what you said you were going to do for the price you said you were going to do it in the timeline it was.
And that shouldn't be rare, right?
That shouldn't be like a rare thing. But I'm telling you, I showed up and was talking to Philip. I'm like, bro, these guys are incredible.
We're supposed to start the workout at like 1:30 probably, and I think we started at 2:15 because he just talked about it the whole time.
I mean, but it's crazy that nobody is getting it right. Nobody, or so few are getting it right that you're surprised when someone does what they're supposed to do.
It's like nowadays you expect something to go wrong no matter who it is.
And there's a level of acceptance in the building process or whatever that I've never understood, where people are just totally okay with, oh, that's just the way it is, that they're always 3 weeks behind, or they're always, they always screw something up. I'm like, man, why is that okay? So then you get a company like Southern Lightscapes, and they deliver their product in a way that is so efficient, and then the client experience was just very clean. So whose idea, before we get to flowers, because Philip wants to now, he wants to give our podcast guests flowers because of my idea. But
that's great.
Who was client experience always something that was important to you from the beginning, or is that something that JD kind of said, hey, here's what I think we can do better? How did that come about?
I mean, I would say that's just the way. I mean, it feels like that's just the way things should be done. Mm-hmm. I mean, it feels to me like common sense. I mean, it's just, if you say you're going to do something for that price and in that day and that time, like, that's what I'm going to do. So I think I don't think that's something I don't like have to work at that, right? Mm-hmm. That's a drive that I have just to like make people happy, because when I make people happy, they usually send checks quicker than,
for sure.
I mean, that's not all of it, but I want people to get what they thought they were going to get.
Yeah. I
mean, I want to deliver, I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. I'd rather overdeliver.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he's added some customer experience stuff. I mean, like the flowers,
So talk to me about this, how this works. So we didn't have
So
this.
when you were a one-man show, you didn't just hand out flowers at the end of each
I
job.
just had it in the back of the truck.
You sent like single
Thank you so
roses.
much.
Thank you for
It got awkward a couple times. But
So that was really, he just started that. Okay.
Because I remember coming home, and it actually was interesting because I'm not a big flower guy. Yeah, I know, Philip, you won't believe this. I don't buy a lot of flowers for Jess when I go home. And I get kind of get in trouble for this quite often, because a lot of guys do, because they're just good human beings and they know what they're supposed to do. I never got the memo. So when the flowers showed up, I was like, oh, crap, I didn't do that. And then we read the card, and it was from Southern Lightscapes. And then Jess was like, oh, it's from Southern Lightscapes, not from you, and she didn't mean it in a bad way, but it was kind of like a dig, like, don't worry, the exterior lighting guys sent me the flowers. Yeah. You didn't.
Well, I scheduled it, so essentially it's from me.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, So when you finish a job for a customer, do you wait until they pay? What triggers this experience, the client experience, to end?
That's a great question. Go ahead.
Yeah. So no, once it's completed, we send the flowers.
Okay.
And it's the same thing with the gym. Like in this marketplace, everything is very competitive. So there's a lot of different options. And so if you don't deliver a good client experience, it's over, and so as soon as that is sent, as soon as it's completed, the flowers are sent, and we're switching it up, because I've had a couple of guys be like, "This is the first time a dude has sent me flowers before." And
it's kind of hard to send bourbon, though.
Well, we're thinking about something like that, but then you don't know everybody's story and all that.
Well, I'll tell you, the interesting part is when you send flowers, it's definitely not the husband that you're winning over. It's the wife, and the reality is, I would imagine, Philip, if you talked about who comes home and says, "Man, I think we need to fix our exterior lighting plan," it's probably not going to be you and me that are driving up at the house and being like, "That's what we're thinking about." You know what?
Yeah, if it was on the Steve, we would have a flashlight in here, not this big fancy light.
There you go.
He's like, "How much is this light?" And I told him, he's like, "Man, I could probably get a couple guys to hold some flashlights during the podcast." I said, "I don't think it's going to work."
So it's usually not the man, the male that's doing that. It's going to be the female that goes over to someone else's house, sees this amazing lighting plan, and it's like, "Hey, we need to go do this." Well, now all of a sudden, the flowers come in, and she's sold. Like, okay, I love whoever that was that sent the flowers. I love them. We're using them again, and it's really a brilliant play, because that's how the relationship is kind of solidified. Because when the wife is happy with the service that's being done, that's who is going to win that.
Yeah, I mean,
game.
I was shocked going into it. It's not real expensive, but it's not cheap.
No,
and so, but 9 times out of 10, we're meeting with the wife, because it's during work hours when we're going out to do the consult. And so I was surprised by that when I first got into it and started doing the sales and stuff.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and I have to imagine that from a gym background, the longer you're around, the bigger that base of clients will get, and you continue to grow at an exponential rate the bigger you get. So when you guys are talking about 5x from 2019 or from 2019 to 2020, I would have to believe that 21 maybe is not 5x, but man, you're going to have to be projected to have a great year just with the base of clients that continues to grow.
That's right.
And
our goal is 2x essentially, 2.5 based on our revenue goals. So
man, now what type of staff do you guys have? Do you have a permanent install staff? How does that work?
Yeah. So we have 2 full-time crew leaders.
Okay.
And we've got 2 vans, they're wrapped vehicles. Yep. And then we kind of have a little bit of a revolving door of part-time helpers. Right now we've got 1.5.
Yeah. So there's 5 full-time salaried employees and 3 part-time, and they kind of rotate in through the week.
I think that's something I looked at all along was, what's the number of employees that you can have, whether they're 1099s or W-2s, whatever, before it becomes a headache to manage that. And, I think, 15 to 20 or less is pretty manageable. And I think you get above that, and now you've got all these different, you've got HR, you've got all these different things that you got to have. So I would imagine that it isn't too big of a headache for you guys with that size of a crew, and you're lean enough that I'm sure that you can really optimize how your revenues are too, because you don't have this gargantuan fixed expense that you're paying every month. So
once HR gets involved, we might have to change our core values a little bit.
And that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You can stay small, and I can promise you, I'd be in prison if I had HR listening to what Philip was saying on a daily basis. But that's that. It just, again, you get to the franchises and your background. It's such a different playing field when you have to deal with those the layers of accountability you have on that versus a privately owned business that you don't have to operate under those same rules.
That's right.
You know,
and we're definitely excited to grow. I mean, one of our 2021 goals is to open up a new market, whether it's Greenville or just Mooresville. You know, just because we do a lot of work up there, and it's far enough to where we could have a separate office. But that's something that we're not trying to grow too fast, so that we don't get that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's one of our threats, honestly.
Yeah. Now, is your wife Graham involved in the business?
No.
Okay.
No, really not. She was early on,
Okay.
obviously, but she doesn't really do very much. She's actually like she is so happy because now all of my ideas and all of my talking and everything gets funneled to JD.
Yeah.
She's like, this is amazing. You just come home and we're together. It's not like, talking about.
She was skeptical, though.
She was very skeptical. And she's also upset that she doesn't that all of our customers get flowers, and she doesn't.
I hope. Can we cut that and show just that? We'll just splice that. Yeah, that'll be the intro. That's the interview. The interview's over. That's all I really need to do. Right. That's always a challenge when you have a small business and you try and get your spouse involved in that. That's a challenging.
I've hired and fired her a couple of times in the past 10 years.
I can imagine.
Did you hire and fire? Or did she come on and quit? Come on and quit.
She never actually quit. She just stopped working.
She stopped working. Okay.
The pay stayed the same. Surprisingly,
she just quit working.
My wife has multiple stories of me firing her. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you just stopped.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Why isn't this getting done?
That's right.
So talk to me about if I want to do exterior lighting and I haven't connected with you, where do I find that? Is it Instagram? Is it your website? Where's that contact form? And we'll link to all that stuff.
Yeah, so it's on our website, southernlightscapes.com.
Okay.
You go to request or start your design, and then we'll come out. We'll schedule a time to come out and walk you through the process. And then we do all of our installation too. So we're not outsourcing that installation. We do all that ourselves. So
I like that part about it because a lot of times we all get it. We've all had sales meetings where you sit down and you just talk about the product, and we don't know if you're going to get a sale or not.
Right.
And I think that's one thing that sets you guys apart is, I think I even explained to Graham, like, man, listen, I didn't even have this budgeted. Okay, this is like, I ran out of money about 3 months ago. So, and it didn't change the amount of time he spent with me. We still came up with a plan that made sense. And it was just such a no nonsense way to do it versus, when people try and, it's the same thing in sales. When you try and judge that relationship or the potential sale by what car pulls up in the parking lot, it's impossible to do that. And if you judge it based on, well, this guy doesn't have a budget for this, and he sounds like he's, we call it frugal,
not
frugal,
cheap. Not cheap, frugal.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's pretty frugal. A lot of people would probably, kind of say, see you later. Hey, they're probably not who we're looking for. But you never know what each sale can bring. And I think,
well, and part of that is, people just deserve your respect, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they called you and they're like, I want to talk about this. Well, let's talk about it. Here it is. This is what it'll cost. Maybe you can do it. Maybe you can't. But this is my best design. This is what would be wonderful. And we can talk about numbers and we can back it down and do this and do that. And happy to, fit it in. But you don't want to. It's just bad behavior.
Yeah.
to just kind of be like, yeah.
Yeah, the same way.
This guy's not going to buy anything.
You don't want fitness to be for the rich. We'll work within any budget.
Yeah.
And the transformation that this happens, what I loved about it is, like, you look at a house before and then after the lights. Like, I don't want, if you can only spend $10,000 on lights, I don't want that to be for you. If you have $1,000, like, it's for everybody, and I think we want it to be for everybody on all scopes.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's just a cool experience. I think that if someone's out there and they are in the market for exterior lighting, it's probably not the first thing on their list that they thought about. Mm-hmm. But it has to. Most of the time, it has to be a part of it. And I hope that there's people that will give you guys a shot, because you just don't. It's unfortunate, like we talked about, but you just don't find people like you guys all the time. You just don't. There's not enough small businesses. And that's what, not to get off on a complete tangent, but that's what's so frustrating about the way this whole pandemic has impacted small businesses, because I'm sure there's a lot of small businesses outside of exterior lighting or whatever else that had similar values, had similar partners, and that they didn't survive this. And now, we're stuck with the bigger franchises that can't provide the service that entrepreneurs like you guys can. So I hope that, I hope you guys have an awesome 2021. Should we tell them that now we got to go do a workout? I didn't realize JD was doggone Iron Tribe.
I guess we have to now.
I guess we have to now.
Yeah. We can think of something real quick.
Yeah.
I'll come up with the workout.
Maybe we'll cold plunge instead.
Negative. You can come up with the workout.
I think I've got a 12 o'clock. Actually.
Exactly.
But guys, no, I really appreciate it. We will we'll link everything, all your social media stuff, all of your websites. We'll link it in our podcast. I think we've got 3 listeners by now.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. We're picking up some steam. We've got an awesome community at Vitality, and I think that there's definitely some people that are going to be in the market, and if they are, I urge you guys to call JD and Graham, and if nothing else, you can talk to JD. He can change the flower thing and put it from you.
That's right.
And
there you go.
There you go.
That's an add-on.
That's an add-on.
So we can
It's
do
an
that.
add-on.
That is good.
But no, we appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much for
Thanks
being
for having
on.
us on. Thanks for the work. All that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.